In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where stars danced like diamonds scattered across an infinite velvet canvas, there existed a warrior race known for their unparalleled beauty and savage prowess. Among them was a princess, her form sculpted by evolution into something both terrifying and mesmerizing. Her skin shimmered with an ethereal glow that pulsed in sync with her emotions, while eyes that held galaxies within their depths surveyed her surroundings with calculated precision. Standing at nearly 7 feet tall, she moved with liquid grace despite the intricate armor that adorned her lithe frame, armor forged from metals mined on planets humans had never even discovered. The alien civilization valued strength above all else, believing it to be the ultimate measure of worth. For generations, they had observed Earth from afar, studying its inhabitants through advanced surveillance technologies. To them, humanity appeared as fragile creatures, scurrying about their blue planet like ants beneath a magnifying glass. Their wars seemed chaotic rather than strategic, their physical capabilities laughable compared to the warriors who could tear through starships with bare hands. The princess shared this view, having grown up hearing tales of human weakness whispered among her people. Her first encounter with humankind came during a routine patrol near Earth's orbit. Through holographic projections, she watched soldiers march in formation, their movements stiff and mechanical compared to the fluid combat styles of her own kind. She observed street fights captured by hidden drones, noting how quickly humans succumbed to injury or fatigue. Even their most celebrated warriors seemed pitiful in comparison to the raw power displayed by her race's youngest initiates. This confirmation of human frailty only solidified her preconceptions, leading her to dismiss Earth as nothing more than a backwater world populated by insignificant beings barely worthy of notice. Yet fate, that capricious architect of destinies, had other plans for the proud princess. During one of her solitary training sessions aboard her flagship, sensors detected an unauthorized vessel breaching protected space. The craft moved with unexpected agility, evading capture attempts with maneuvers that defied conventional physics. Intrigued despite herself, she took command of the pursuit, her ship slicing through asteroid fields and plasma storms in relentless chase. Hours turned into days as the mysterious vessel led them on a cosmic dance, until finally, both ships were forced to make emergency landfall on a desolate moon, their systems compromised by a sudden solar flare. As her boarding party approached the foreign craft, weapons drawn and senses heightened, the princess felt an unfamiliar flicker of anticipation. The airlock hissed open, revealing not the expected cargo of smuggled technology or rare minerals, but a single human male standing defiantly in the shadows. His presence struck her immediately, not because of any outward appearance that might distinguish him from others of his kind, but due to the way he carried himself. There was no trace of fear in his stance, no hesitation in his gaze as he met her eyes with unwavering determination. The man wore battle-worn armor that bore testament to countless engagements, each scar etched into the metal telling a story of survival against overwhelming odds. His dark hair was cropped close to his scalp, revealing a face lined with experience rather than age, while calloused hands rested lightly on weapons holstered at his sides. What caught her attention most, however, was the subtle shift in his posture, a predator's awareness that mirrored her own combat readiness. As their gazes locked, she sensed something primal stirring within him, a warrior's spirit that refused to yield even in the face of impossible odds. "Identify yourself," she commanded, her voice resonating with authority that had made entire armies tremble. To her surprise, the human responded not with the expected submission or panic, but with a measured calm that bordered on insolence. "Commander Marcus of the United Earth Defense Force," he stated, his voice carrying a weight that demanded respect rather than requested it. The princess found herself momentarily taken aback by the steadiness in his tone, the absolute conviction behind his words. Here stood a human who didn't quake before her superior technology or her race's fearsome reputation. As the initial confrontation stretched into hours of tense negotiation, the princess discovered layers to this human warrior that challenged everything she thought she knew about his species. Commander Marcus demonstrated an uncanny ability to read situations and adapt strategies on the fly, countering her diplomatic maneuvers with unexpected tactical brilliance. When their conversation turned to military matters, he spoke with an authority born from experience, detailing battles fought across Earth's varied terrains with a depth of understanding that rivaled her own extensive combat training. Their discussions revealed a mind that processed information with startling efficiency, connecting seemingly unrelated facts to form comprehensive strategic assessments. Despite being physically outmatched, Marcus exhibited none of the weakness she associated with humans. Instead, he radiated a quiet confidence that intrigued her. He questioned her assumptions about human limitations, presenting evidence of resilience and innovation that forced her to reconsider her long-held beliefs. The princess found herself drawn into debates about warfare, strategy, and leadership, each exchange peeling away another layer of her preconceptions. Perhaps most surprisingly, Marcus demonstrated a profound understanding of psychological warfare. He instinctively grasped the subtle power dynamics at play during their interactions, neither cowering nor overstepping boundaries in ways that would provoke hostility. His ability to maintain composure under pressure, combined with genuine insight into conflict resolution, suggested a sophistication she hadn't anticipated finding in a human. As their conversations continued, the princess realized she was engaging with a mind equally matched to her own, a revelation that both disturbed and fascinated her. Their growing mutual respect manifested in unexpected ways, particularly when technical failures left both parties stranded on the hostile moon's surface. The princess watched in astonishment as Marcus transformed what should have been a crisis into a masterclass in resourcefulness. Without hesitation, he began organizing their combined teams, seamlessly integrating alien and human personnel through a combination of clear direction and subtle diplomacy. His understanding of equipment maintenance proved remarkable, as he quickly adapted to unfamiliar alien technology while simultaneously teaching her engineers innovative human repair techniques. During a critical moment when atmospheric shielding failed, threatening to expose everyone to lethal radiation levels, Marcus displayed a level of courage that shook the princess to her core. Without protective gear suitable for either species, he led a desperate charge to manually realign the shield generators, coordinating movements with precise hand signals that somehow transcended language barriers. The princess found herself following his lead, their combined efforts creating a synergy she'd never experienced in battle. Each success built upon the last, forging an unspoken bond between them that went beyond mere professional admiration. Particularly striking was Marcus's approach to leadership. He treated every team member, regardless of species, with equal respect and consideration. When an alien technician expressed doubt about human methods, Marcus patiently demonstrated solutions while acknowledging the validity of alternative approaches. This willingness to learn and adapt, coupled with his unwavering commitment to protecting his team, revealed a depth of character that continued to challenge the princess's preconceived notions about human nature. She found herself volunteering for increasingly dangerous tasks alongside him, driven by a desire to prove that her own abilities could match his extraordinary competence. The princess's internal struggle became a constant companion, whispering doubts about everything she had been taught to believe. Each interaction with Marcus revealed new facets of human capability that contradicted her ingrained perceptions. The way he balanced strategic thinking with emotional intelligence, his ability to inspire loyalty without resorting to fear tactics, these qualities forced her to question whether her people's dominance truly stemmed from inherent superiority or merely different evolutionary paths. Memories of her early training resurfaced, particularly the harsh lessons that emphasized physical strength as the ultimate measure of worth. Yet here stood a warrior whose power derived from mental fortitude, adaptability, and moral conviction rather than brute force. As they worked together, she noticed how Marcus's presence affected not just her, but her entire crew. Her most seasoned warriors began seeking his counsel on tactical matters, while junior officers openly admired his problem-solving skills. The ease with which he navigated complex social dynamics, maintaining harmony between species that had previously regarded each other with suspicion, demonstrated a form of strength she had never considered valuable. This realization brought a profound discomfort, forcing her to confront the possibility that her culture's rigid hierarchy might be limiting rather than empowering. The cognitive dissonance grew with each passing day. Marcus's achievements challenged not just her views on humanity, but the very foundation of her society's belief system. She found herself re-evaluating memories of past encounters with humans, wondering how many displays of strength and intelligence she might have dismissed simply because they didn't conform to her expectations. The princess began documenting these moments of doubt, creating a personal record of observations that contradicted official doctrine. Each entry added weight to the growing burden of conflicting truths she carried, making it increasingly difficult to reconcile her duty to her people with the evidence unfolding before her eyes. Through shared trials and unexpected camaraderie, the princess discovered aspects of human nature that transcended mere physical capabilities. Marcus's crew demonstrated an astonishing capacity for collective problem-solving, their diverse backgrounds contributing unique perspectives that complemented rather than competed with each other. She witnessed how human ingenuity thrived under pressure, transforming limited resources into innovative solutions that even her technologically advanced species struggled to replicate. The princess found particular fascination in their concept of teamwork, not as hierarchical obedience, but as a dynamic interplay of trust and mutual support that generated results far exceeding individual contributions. These revelations extended beyond technical proficiency. She observed how human emotions, often dismissed by her people as weaknesses, actually fueled remarkable acts of courage and sacrifice. When a young ensign risked his life to save an injured alien engineer, the princess understood that compassion wasn't a liability but a source of strength. Human creativity manifested in unexpected ways. Improvised tools fashioned from scrap materials, artistic expressions that boosted morale during dire circumstances, and unconventional strategies that repeatedly caught her tactical experts off guard. Most profoundly, she recognized how human adaptability stemmed from their capacity to embrace uncertainty, viewing challenges not as obstacles but as opportunities for growth and learning. As their alliance deepened, the princess encountered traditions and customs that initially seemed alien to her own warrior sensibilities but gradually revealed profound wisdom. The human practice of commemorating fallen comrades through shared stories and rituals spoke to a cultural depth she hadn't anticipated, emphasizing continuity and legacy over mere conquest. Their approach to conflict resolution, balancing justice with mercy, offered a nuanced perspective on victory that challenged her race's more absolutist views. These insights accumulated into a tapestry of understanding that fundamentally altered her perception of human potential, suggesting that true strength lay not in domination but in the ability to evolve, connect, and transcend limitations. The princess's awakening reached a pivotal moment during a joint mission to salvage vital components from their crashed vessels. As she coordinated with Marcus's team, she noticed how naturally humans integrated improvisation with discipline, their flexibility enhancing rather than compromising operational effectiveness. This observation crystallized when they faced a deadly environmental hazard, a rapidly expanding sinkhole threatening to swallow their temporary base. While her warriors prepared for a direct assault on the geological instability, Marcus proposed a counterintuitive solution involving controlled demolition and calculated retreat, a strategy that ultimately preserved more lives and resources than any frontal attack could have achieved. This incident triggered a cascade of reflections about her own culture's rigid adherence to established protocols. She began questioning whether their emphasis on physical supremacy had blinded them to other forms of power, particularly those related to intellectual and emotional resilience. The human's ability to maintain hope in dire circumstances, to find opportunity in adversity, and to transform apparent weaknesses into strategic advantages suggested a sophisticated understanding of strength that transcended mere physical capability. The princess found herself re-examining her people's historical narratives, searching for instances where similar approaches might have yielded better outcomes than their traditional methods. Most profoundly, she recognized how human adaptability represented a fundamental threat to her species' dominance, not through direct confrontation, but through the subtle undermining of their core values. If strength could exist in forms they had never considered, then their entire societal structure, built on the premise of physical superiority, might be inherently flawed. This realization forced her to confront an uncomfortable truth, that perhaps their repeated dismissals of human potential had been less about objective assessment and more about maintaining a comfortable narrative of superiority. The implications of this insight rippled through her consciousness, challenging not just her views on humans, but her understanding of power, progress, and the very nature of strength itself. The princess's internal revolution gained momentum as she began implementing subtle changes in her command style, drawing inspiration from Marcus's leadership philosophy. She started encouraging open dialogue among her subordinates, inviting dissenting opinions and alternative solutions to problems, a radical departure from the strict chain of command that had governed her people for centuries. During tactical briefings, she found herself incorporating human concepts of psychological operations and flexible response strategies, watching with fascination as her warriors adapted to these new approaches with surprising enthusiasm. Her growing respect for human capabilities manifested in tangible ways. She initiated cross-training programs between her troops and Marcus's team, fostering an unprecedented exchange of knowledge and techniques. Alien warriors learned human methods of urban combat and guerrilla tactics, while humans received instruction in advanced sensory processing and energy weapon handling. The resulting fusion of methodologies created combat units that operated with unprecedented efficiency, challenging traditional notions of battlefield superiority. Yet these changes came at a cost, as some of her more conservative officers began questioning her decisions, sensing a shift in priorities they couldn't fully comprehend. The princess's evolving perspective found its most profound expression in her treatment of prisoners and civilian populations encountered during their missions. Where once she would have followed standard procedure of containment and interrogation, she now advocated for cooperative engagement and mutual benefit. This approach yielded unexpected dividends, as formerly hostile groups became willing allies, providing crucial intelligence and resources. However, these successes only deepened the ideological divide between her and the more traditional elements of her command structure, setting the stage for conflicts that threatened to escalate beyond simple philosophical differences. The princess's transformation reached a critical juncture when she discovered classified records revealing her people's systematic manipulation of human history. Ancient texts documented numerous instances where promising human civilizations had been deliberately sabotaged or redirected, ensuring they remained technologically inferior and divided. The scale of this interference shocked her to her core, particularly when she recognized patterns matching current policies she had once supported without question. More disturbing still were the reports of deliberate misinformation campaigns designed to reinforce the narrative of human weakness, including fabricated evidence of humanity's supposed inability to govern themselves effectively. These revelations coincided with Marcus's disclosure of similar findings from Earth's historical archives, evidence of unexplained technological regressions and suspiciously timed natural disasters that had repeatedly set back human progress. Together, they pieced together a pattern of interventions spanning millennia, orchestrated by her people to maintain their perceived superiority. The princess confronted the bitter truth that much of what she believed about human inadequacy had been carefully constructed lies, maintained through generations of careful propaganda and selective observation. The implications of this conspiracy extended far beyond historical manipulation. Current diplomatic protocols suddenly made sense in a new, sinister light, carefully crafted agreements that ensured humanity remained dependent on her people's technology while systematically preventing them from developing their own innovations. Even the supposedly random encounters between their species now appeared as calculated exercises in psychological conditioning, designed to reinforce feelings of inferiority among humans while maintaining her people's sense of racial superiority. The princess realized she had been both perpetrator and victim of this elaborate deception, her own perceptions shaped by centuries of carefully curated misinformation. The princess's private quarters became a sanctuary of conflicting thoughts as she grappled with the monumental decision before her. Every fiber of her being had been trained to prioritize her people's interests above all else, yet the evidence of systematic oppression weighed heavily on her conscience. She spent sleepless nights poring over ancient texts and modern reports, tracing the threads of deception that had woven through centuries of interspecies relations. The injustice of it all, the deliberate stunting of human potential, the manipulation of entire civilizations, burned within her like a supernova threatening to consume her loyalty to her own kind. Marcus's unwavering integrity in the face of these revelations only deepened her turmoil. His ability to process such damning information about her species without succumbing to hatred or despair demonstrated a moral fortitude that shamed her own initial reactions. When she confessed her people's crimes to him, expecting condemnation or rejection, he instead offered understanding and a path forward. His suggestion that she could become an agent of change rather than a perpetuator of oppression sparked a flame of hope that warred with her ingrained sense of duty. The princess found herself oscillating between moments of resolve to expose the truth and paralyzing fear of the consequences such actions would unleash. Her internal conflict manifested in physical symptoms: tremors in her hands when reviewing sensitive documents, sleep disturbances that left her exhausted yet unable to rest. The weight of possible futures pressed upon her, the wrath of her people if she betrayed their secrets, the potential liberation of humanity if she chose to ally with them, and the personal cost of severing ties with everything she had ever known. Each option presented its own form of sacrifice, yet remaining passive felt increasingly untenable. The princess realized she stood at a crossroads where her choice would define not just her own destiny, but potentially the future relationship between two species bound by centuries of manipulation and misunderstanding. As the princess wrestled with her conscience, an unexpected development forced her hand. A distress signal from a nearby human colony reached their temporary base, a settlement under siege by rogue factions of her own people, acting on orders to suppress any signs of human advancement. The transmission revealed evidence of advanced medical technology developed independently by the colonists, capable of curing diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. This discovery, rather than being celebrated as a triumph of ingenuity, had triggered a brutal crackdown orchestrated by those who sought to maintain the status quo. Marcus's reaction was immediate and resolute. "We can't stand by while they destroy everything these people have built," he declared, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. But this time, his determination wasn't met with hesitation from the princess. Instead, she felt something ignite within her, a fierce protectiveness not just for Marcus but for the fragile hope represented by the colony's achievements. For the first time, she saw clearly how her silence perpetuated the very oppression she now despised. The decision crystallized in her mind as she locked eyes with Marcus. "I'm with you," she said simply, her voice unwavering. It wasn't just a declaration of alliance. It was a vow, to him, to herself, and to the future she wanted to believe was possible. Together, they devised a plan that combined his tactical brilliance with her intimate knowledge of her people's strategies. They would strike at the heart of the operation, dismantling the forces attacking the colony while exposing the corrupt leadership orchestrating the attack. The battle that followed tested every ounce of skill and resolve they possessed. The princess found herself fighting alongside humans, their unity forged in the heat of conflict. She witnessed acts of heroism that defied explanation. Ordinary settlers standing shoulder to shoulder with trained soldiers, armed with little more than makeshift weapons and sheer willpower. One young woman, barely out of adolescence, used her knowledge of the terrain to guide ambushes that crippled enemy reinforcements. Another man sacrificed himself to disable a plasma cannon threatening to level the colony's central hub. Each act of bravery chipped away at the last remnants of doubt in the princess's heart. But the fight came at a cost. As they pushed deeper into enemy lines, the princess confronted warriors she had once called comrades. Their faces twisted with betrayal and rage as they realized she had turned against them. The weight of their accusations struck harder than any blow, forcing her to question whether she was doing the right thing or simply trading one form of destruction for another. Still, she pressed on, driven by the memory of Marcus's unshakable conviction and the quiet dignity of the colonists who refused to surrender their dreams. In the chaos of the battle, the princess discovered a new facet of herself, one she hadn't known existed. Her movements became less about raw power and more about precision, her instincts honed not just for survival but for protecting others. When a group of children was cornered by advancing troops, she didn't hesitate to place herself between them and danger, using her body as a shield. The act left her wounded, but it also filled her with a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. Strength, she realized, wasn't about domination, it was about sacrifice, about choosing to stand firm even when the odds seemed insurmountable. As the tide of the battle began to turn, the princess faced a moment of reckoning. The leader of the rogue faction, a high-ranking general she had once admired, cornered her in the ruins of the colony's main laboratory. His words cut deep, accusing her of abandoning her heritage and betraying everything her people stood for. "You think you're helping them," he sneered, gesturing toward the humans rallying around Marcus. "All you're doing is delaying the inevitable. They'll crumble under the weight of their own ambition." For a heartbeat, doubt flickered in her mind. What if he was right? What if humanity's rise would lead to the same cycle of conquest and oppression her people had perpetuated? But then she looked past him, seeing Marcus coordinating the defense with calm authority, the colonists working together to rebuild what had been destroyed, and the children watching with wide-eyed hope. And she understood, the path forward wouldn't be perfect, but it would be theirs to forge, not dictated by fear or control, but shaped by choice and cooperation. With renewed resolve, the princess disarmed the general, not with brute force but with a calculated maneuver that left him incapacitated but alive. "I'm not betraying my people," she said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "I'm giving us a chance to become something better." Her words echoed in the silence that followed, a promise to herself and to the future she hoped to build. Though the immediate threat had been neutralized, the larger struggle loomed ahead. News of her rebellion would spread quickly, forcing her to make a permanent break from her people. The colony, though saved, remained vulnerable to further attacks. And Marcus, standing beside her amidst the wreckage, carried the weight of knowing their alliance might come at a terrible price. Yet neither of them flinched. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, bound not just by shared battles but by the belief that change was possible, even in the face of overwhelming odds. As dawn broke over the battered colony, casting golden light across the scars of war, the princess made a silent vow. She would dedicate herself to bridging the gap between their species, not as a conqueror or a savior, but as an equal. The road ahead would be fraught with uncertainty, but for the first time in her life, she felt truly alive, no longer shackled by the expectations of her past, but free to shape a future where strength was defined not by dominance, but by the courage to stand for what was right. The aftermath of the battle brought both triumph and reckoning. The colony, though battered, stood resilient, its people refusing to be cowed by the forces that had sought to destroy them. Under Marcus's guidance, they began rebuilding, not just their structures but their spirit. The princess watched as settlers worked side by side with her remaining loyalists, forging bonds that transcended species. It was a fragile peace, born of shared suffering and mutual respect, but it held the promise of something greater. Yet, even as hope took root, shadows loomed on the horizon. News of the princess's betrayal reached her homeworld, sparking outrage among her people. High councils convened in emergency sessions, debating how to respond to this unprecedented act of defiance. Some called for swift retribution, while others argued that the situation required subtlety, perhaps even an opportunity to exploit her actions for political gain. Regardless of the outcome, one thing was certain: she could never return home. Her choice had severed ties not only with her government but with much of her culture, leaving her adrift between worlds. Marcus understood the gravity of what she had sacrificed. One evening, as they stood together overlooking the colony bathed in twilight, he spoke quietly. "You didn't have to do this," he said, his voice tinged with both gratitude and sorrow. "You gave up everything." She turned to him, her luminous eyes reflecting the fading light. "No," she replied firmly. "I gained something far more valuable. A chance to make things right, for both our peoples." Her gaze swept over the scene before them, humans and aliens working together, laughter mingling with the sounds of reconstruction. "This is worth any price." But the cost would soon become clearer. Days later, a fleet of ships appeared in orbit, a diplomatic envoy sent by her people under the guise of negotiation. The princess recognized the lead ambassador immediately, an elder statesman known for his cunning and ruthlessness. He requested an audience, ostensibly to discuss terms of peace, but she knew better. This was a test, a final attempt to bring her back into the fold or eliminate her as a threat. The meeting took place aboard the princess's flagship, now retrofitted with human technology thanks to the collaborative efforts of their combined teams. As she entered the chamber, flanked by Marcus and a contingent of trusted warriors, the tension was palpable. The ambassador wasted no time with pleasantries. "Your actions have caused great upheaval," he began, his tone deceptively calm. "But there is still time to rectify your mistake. Return with us, and we will forgive your transgressions." The princess straightened, her presence commanding despite the weight of her decision. "Forgiveness," she echoed, her voice ringing with quiet authority. "For standing against oppression? For choosing justice over tyranny? No, I will not return to a society built on lies and fear." The ambassador's expression darkened. "Then you leave us no choice. If you will not come willingly, we will take you, and crush anyone who stands in our way." Before hostilities could escalate further, Marcus stepped forward, his demeanor calm but resolute. "If you attack, you'll find us ready. But know this, humanity won't bow to threats anymore. We've learned from the best," he glanced at the princess, "and we're stronger than you think." For a moment, the room seemed to hold its breath. Then, unexpectedly, the ambassador smiled, a cold, calculating curve of his lips. "Very well," he said. "We shall withdraw, for now. But remember, princess, you cannot outrun your destiny forever." As the envoy departed, the princess felt a mixture of relief and foreboding. She knew this wasn't the end, it was merely a reprieve. Her defection had ignited a spark that would grow into either a beacon of unity or a conflagration of war. Either way, the galaxy would never be the same. In the weeks that followed, the princess dedicated herself fully to her new role as a bridge between species. With Marcus at her side, she traveled to other human settlements, sharing knowledge and fostering alliances. Her insights into her people's tactics proved invaluable in strengthening Earth's defenses, while her advocacy for cooperation helped dismantle centuries of mistrust. Slowly but surely, the narrative began to shift, from one of fear and subjugation to one of possibility and partnership. Still, the personal toll of her choices weighed heavily on her. Nights were often restless, haunted by memories of those she had left behind and the lives lost in the fight for freedom. Yet, whenever doubt crept in, she found solace in the growing connections around her. Children greeted her with wide-eyed wonder, no longer afraid of the alien warrior but inspired by her courage. Elders shared stories of resilience, drawing parallels between her journey and their own struggles for survival. And Marcus. Marcus remained her steadfast companion, a constant reminder that love and loyalty could transcend even the deepest divides. One evening, as they stood beneath a star-filled sky, the princess finally allowed herself to dream of a future where such divisions might cease to exist altogether. "Do you think it's possible?" she asked softly. "A world where we're not defined by our differences?" Marcus smiled, taking her hand in his. "It has to be. Because if it isn't, then none of this, none of what we've fought for, means anything." Her heart swelled with determination. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them head-on, guided by the belief that change was not only possible but inevitable. Together, they would forge a new path, one that honored the strengths of both their species and celebrated the beauty of unity amidst diversity. And so, as the stars bore witness to their resolve, the princess and Marcus embarked on the next chapter of their journey, not as adversaries or allies, but as partners in a shared mission to reshape the cosmos. The road would be long and fraught with peril, but they walked it with unwavering faith in the power of hope, courage, and the unbreakable bond they had forged. For in a universe vast and unknowable, they had discovered something rare and precious: the strength to stand together, no matter the odds.